Time is the one thing we all share equally. No matter who you are, where you come from, or what you've achieved, every single person gets the same 24 hours in a day. And yet, how we use that time defines everything about us, our success, our fulfillment, our relationships, our growth. You can rebuild wealth, repair relationships, restart careers, but you can never reclaim a single moment once it's gone. Every tick of the clock is a trade between what you could be doing and what you choose to do. The question isn't whether you have enough time, it's whether you're using the time you have in the right way. The truth is, time doesn't stop for anyone. It doesn't wait for us to feel ready. It doesn't pause when we're scared or when we're uncertain about the next step. Time moves forward with or without our permission. Every day that passes is one less day to make something meaningful happen. And yet, so many of us act as if we have forever, putting off our dreams until someday, telling ourselves we'll start when things are perfect or when life feels a little more convenient. But that someday rarely comes. It's just another way of wasting what we've already been given. Too often, we confuse being busy with being productive. We fill our calendars, reply to endless messages, attend meeting after meeting, and convince ourselves that this activity equals progress. But business can become a trap, a comforting illusion that keeps us from facing what really matters. Real progress isn't about how much we do, it's about what we choose to do. It's about doing the few things that move us closer to our purpose, even if they take longer or feel harder. Because the truth is, you can spend your whole life being busy and still end up nowhere. We live in an age of distraction. Our phones, notifications, and constant digital noise pull us in 100 directions every minute. We chase after likes, approval, and fleeting validation, mistaking it for connection or accomplishment. But every moment spent lost in distraction is a moment taken away from something deeper. Reflection, creativity, or simply being present with people we love. The cost of distraction isn't just lost productivity, it's lost presence. And presence is where meaning lives. Every choice we make is a reflection of our values. The way you spend your time shows what truly matters to you, whether you realize it or not. When you say you don't have time for something, what you're really saying is that it's not a priority. And that's okay. But be honest with yourself about it. If growth, passion, or purpose truly matter, then your time should reflect that. Time, when spent intentionally, becomes a declaration of who you are and what you stand for. Living with purpose doesn't mean every moment must be productive. It means every moment should have meaning. Resting intentionally, spending time with loved ones, learning something new, or working toward a dream, all of these are valuable uses of time. The waste happens when we give our hours away to things that drain us, when we say yes to obligations that don't align with who we want to become, or when we let fear decide how we spend our days. Living with purpose means living with clarity, knowing what deserves your time and what doesn't. Time is a mirror. It reflects your discipline, your focus, and your courage to say no. Every successful person you admire understands this truth: time is the foundation of all achievement. They protect it. They structure their days around their purpose, not their impulses. They understand that saying yes to one thing means saying no to another. It's not about managing time, it's about managing priorities. Time by itself doesn't create greatness. Intention does. When we look back at our lives, the measure of success won't be how many things we did, but how deeply we cared about what we did. It won't be the number of hours we worked, but the quality of moments we created. The real regret isn't in the things we tried and failed at. It's in the time we wasted doing nothing that mattered. Every person has a dream, a gift, or a calling waiting to be acted upon, but only those who respect their time will have the chance to see it realized. Think about what your life could look like if you treated every hour as sacred. If you woke up each morning understanding that time is not infinite, but fleeting. You would stop hesitating. You would stop waiting for the perfect moment. You would start living with urgency, not fear. Because urgency reminds us that today matters, that this moment is the only one guaranteed. When you live that way, time stops being something that slips through your fingers and becomes something you command, shape, and use to build something extraordinary. The reality is every single one of us has the power to choose what we give our time to. It's not about having more hours, it's about having more intention. Each decision, no matter how small, is a declaration of what you value. The tragedy isn't that life is short, it's that we act as if it's not. And so the challenge isn't to find more time, but to stop wasting the time we already have. The truth about time is both simple and unforgiving. It moves forward, whether we notice it or not. Every second that passes is a moment we will never get back, and yet so often we act as if there will always be more. We tell ourselves we have tomorrow to start, next week to try, or someday to chase our dreams. But life doesn't guarantee tomorrow. Waiting for the perfect moment, for circumstances to align, or for fear to disappear is a luxury we don't have. Time is impartial, and it keeps moving regardless of our readiness or hesitation. The longer we wait, the more precious moments slip away without us realizing it. Many people fall into the trap of letting urgency control them instead of importance. Our days are filled with distractions that scream for attention: emails, notifications, social media, errands, obligations, and endless minor tasks. These things demand our energy and time, and if we let them, they will consume our lives. We feel productive when we respond to these demands, but productivity without purpose is meaningless. Real value comes from focusing on the few things that truly matter, not from filling every minute with business that leads nowhere. Recognizing the difference is crucial to living intentionally. Procrastination is another silent thief of time. It disguises itself in comfort and safety, whispering that waiting is harmless. We put off conversations that matter, decisions that scare us, and actions that could change our lives. Every delay is a moment of potential lost. The longer we allow procrastination to dominate, the further we move from our goals and our purpose. And often we don't realize how much time we've lost until we reflect back years later, wondering why we didn't act sooner. We often underestimate the power of small, consistent actions. We think that achieving meaningful results requires grand gestures or monumental changes. In reality, progress is built through intentional steps taken day after day. Every moment spent learning, creating, helping, or building compounds over time. Every minute invested in something that aligns with your values strengthens your foundation for the life you want to live. Conversely, every minute wasted on distractions erodes that foundation quietly, almost imperceptibly, until we are left with regret. Time also teaches us that we are responsible for our own choices. No one else manages our hours for us. No one else can decide what to focus on, and no one else bears the consequences of how we spend our days. Each choice is a declaration of priorities. Saying yes to one thing inherently means saying no to something else. Being mindful of these trade-offs is essential. Life is not about doing everything. It is about doing the right things, the things that bring us closer to who we are meant to be and the life we are meant to live. Our culture glorifies being busy, but busy does not equal meaningful. We celebrate long hours and constant motion without questioning whether these actions actually bring fulfillment or progress. We wear our schedules like badges of honor while our true goals sit neglected. The illusion of productivity can be comforting, but it is dangerous because it masks inaction with motion. To live purposefully, we must confront this illusion and choose focus over frenzy, depth over breadth, and quality over quantity. Reflection is a tool that can guide us back to intentional living. Taking time to consider how we spend our hours, what we value, and where our attention goes helps reveal patterns of waste and opportunities for growth. Reflection allows us to recognize habits that drain our energy, commitments that do not serve us, and routines that distract us from what is truly meaningful. Through reflection, we gain clarity, and with clarity comes the power to change how we use our time. Life is finite, and the fragility of our time should be a motivator rather than a source of fear. Recognizing that each day is limited can instill urgency, prompting us to act rather than delay. Urgency encourages us to focus on meaningful work, to prioritize relationships that matter, and to pursue personal growth without postponement. It reminds us that waiting for perfect conditions is a trap, and that imperfect action taken today is infinitely more valuable than perfect action delayed indefinitely. Every person has unique dreams, passions, and talents, but realizing them requires action, not intention alone. Time spent planning, thinking, or wishing without following through yields nothing. Action is the only way to turn potential into reality. Every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to the life we envision. Conversely, inaction guarantees stagnation, and consistent inaction guarantees regret. Understanding this truth is fundamental to respecting time as the most precious resource we possess. Ultimately, the way we spend our time reflects who we are and what we value. It is not measured by hours worked, tasks completed, or obligations fulfilled, but by the meaningful impact of our actions and the alignment of our choices with our purpose. Every day presents opportunities to invest our time in ways that matter, to create experiences that enrich our lives, and to build toward goals that define our legacy. Recognizing the stakes of each passing moment empowers us to live intentionally, act decisively, and prioritize what is truly important. Time is the most equal yet most elusive resource we have. Everyone, regardless of status, wealth, or circumstance, receives the same 24 hours in a day. But how those hours are used separates those who create impact from those who merely exist. Time cannot be paused, rewound, or saved. Once a moment passes, it is gone forever, and no amount of planning, wishing, or strategizing can retrieve it. Yet, despite this unyielding truth, most of us treat time as if it is abundant, as if tomorrow will offer a second chance to do what we are postponing today. Too many people spend their days waiting for external validation or perfect conditions before taking action. They convince themselves that someday they will pursue their passions, reach their goals, or become the person they aspire to be. But the reality is that someday rarely arrives. Life unfolds in the present, and every second that passes is an opportunity to make progress, to learn to grow, or to connect meaningfully with others. Waiting for the perfect moment is a luxury we cannot afford because time does not wait for anyone. We live in a culture that glorifies business, equating constant motion with success. People fill their schedules with meetings, obligations, notifications, and tasks, mistaking this activity for achievement. But activity without direction is empty. Filling every hour with things that demand attention but offer no meaningful return is a slow, almost invisible form of waste. True productivity is measured not by the quantity of what we do, but by the value and significance of what we focus on. Knowing the difference between motion and progress is essential to living with purpose. Distractions are one of the most insidious thieves of time. Social media, news feeds, endless notifications, and trivial obligations pull our attention away from what truly matters. Every time we give in to distraction, we lose not only the hours spent but also our mental clarity, our creativity, and our energy. The time we lose in moments of distraction cannot be reclaimed, and yet we often allow ourselves to be led by impulses rather than intention. Protecting our focus is as important as protecting our health, relationships, or financial resources. Procrastination is another form of time theft, disguised as comfort or prudence. It convinces us to delay important decisions, avoid difficult conversations, or postpone actions that could transform our lives. Each delay compounds, leaving us further from the goals we claim to value. Procrastination thrives on the illusion of endless time, but the truth is that every postponed step reduces the window of opportunity to create meaningful outcomes. Recognizing procrastination as a form of loss is the first step toward reclaiming control over our lives. Small, consistent actions compound over time to produce extraordinary results. We often underestimate the power of daily discipline, believing that only grand gestures can make a difference. Yet every meaningful achievement begins with small choices executed deliberately over time. Every hour spent learning, creating, practicing, or building adds value and brings us closer to our vision. Conversely, every hour spent mindlessly or passively erodes our potential, making it harder to achieve the life we want. Time demands responsibility. We are accountable for how we allocate each hour, each minute, and each second. Others cannot spend our time for us, and no one else bears the consequences of our choices. Every decision reflects our priorities, and understanding the cost of those choices is essential. Saying yes to one thing inherently means saying no to another. The more intentional we are with our decisions, the more control we gain over our lives, and the more aligned we become with our values. Reflection is essential to understanding how we spend our time. Taking deliberate pauses to assess priorities, habits, and routines allows us to identify what drains our energy and what fuels our growth. Without reflection, we drift, allowing external pressures and distractions to dictate the course of our days. Reflection provides clarity, and clarity empowers us to act intentionally, eliminating waste and focusing on what truly matters. The finiteness of life should serve as motivation, not fear. Awareness of our mortality instills urgency, prompting us to take action, prioritize what matters, and eliminate time spent on trivial pursuits. Urgency does not mean rushing indiscriminately. It means recognizing that every moment is valuable and choosing to allocate our attention to endeavors that align with our purpose and passions. Waiting for conditions to be perfect is a form of self-deception that costs us invaluable moments. Ultimately, the way we spend our time defines the quality and meaning of our lives. It is reflected not in the hours logged or tasks completed, but in the depth, intention, and impact of our actions. Every choice about where we place our attention is a vote for the life we want to create. Time is a lens through which our values, priorities, and purpose become visible. Treating it with respect, making deliberate choices, and acting with intention transforms each passing moment into a building block for a life of significance. Time is the one resource that is both universal and unforgiving. Every human being, regardless of wealth, status, or background, receives the same 24 hours in a day. Yet how those hours are used determines the trajectory of their lives. Unlike money, opportunities, or possessions, time cannot be earned back once it passes. Every moment lost is gone forever, never to return, and this reality is both liberating and terrifying. Liberating because it reminds us that the power to choose how we use our time is always in our hands, and terrifying because it demands we take that responsibility seriously. Many people fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect moment to act. They believe that conditions must align, that fear must vanish, or that the right time will appear magically. Yet life doesn't operate on a schedule that waits for us to feel ready. Every day presents opportunities that are fleeting and non-repeatable. The longer we wait, the more moments slip through our fingers, moments that could have been spent building, creating, or connecting. Waiting for ideal circumstances is often an excuse that masks fear or indecision, and it slowly erodes the potential of our lives. We live in a world that glorifies business, and it is easy to confuse activity with achievement. Calendars overflowing with meetings, tasks, and obligations can create the illusion of progress, but moving constantly does not guarantee that we are moving in the right direction. True achievement comes from intentional action, from focusing on what matters most and refusing to let less important tasks consume our time. Learning to distinguish between urgent distractions and meaningful priorities is critical because every moment we dedicate to something trivial is a moment we cannot reclaim. Distractions are perhaps the most relentless enemies of intentional living. Phones, social media, emails, notifications, and endless streams of information demand attention and pull us away from meaningful work. Each time we succumb to these distractions, we not only lose the minutes or hours consumed, but we also sacrifice focus, creativity, and clarity. Time lost to distraction is not just wasted, it is subtracted from our potential, leaving us with less capacity to pursue growth, connection, and purpose. Guarding our attention is as important as guarding any other valuable resource in our lives. Procrastination works in a similar, insidious way. It masquerades as caution, comfort, or prudence, convincing us that delaying action is harmless. We postpone difficult conversations, crucial decisions, and meaningful endeavors, believing that later will be better. Yet each delay is a lost opportunity, a shrinking window to take meaningful action. The cost of procrastination is cumulative, and before we know it, years can pass without significant progress toward our goals or fulfillment. Understanding procrastination as a form of wasted time is essential for reclaiming control over our lives. Small, consistent actions accumulate to create monumental results over time. Many people underestimate the power of daily discipline, believing that only large or dramatic gestures can make a difference. Yet every accomplishment, every meaningful contribution, and every personal growth begins with repeated, intentional actions over time. Each hour spent learning, creating, building, or nurturing relationships compounds to produce extraordinary outcomes. Conversely, hours spent passively or without purpose erode potential in a quiet, almost invisible way. Time also demands accountability. We are responsible for how we allocate our hours, how we respond to opportunities, and how we invest our energy. No one else can make these choices for us, and the consequences of misusing time are ours alone to bear. Every decision to engage in an activity is a choice about what we value, because saying yes to one thing invariably means saying no to another. Recognizing the weight of these choices is crucial to living intentionally, because how we spend our time ultimately shapes the life we build. Reflection is a vital tool in understanding the value of time. Pausing to evaluate our habits, priorities, and routines allows us to see what is consuming our energy and what is contributing to our growth. Without reflection, we drift, letting external demands dictate how our days unfold. Reflection creates clarity, helping us to redirect attention toward what truly matters, eliminate distractions, and align our actions with long-term goals. It is through reflection that we gain insight into the true cost of wasted time and the potential power of deliberate living. Awareness of life's finiteness should act as a catalyst, not a source of fear. Recognizing that our days are limited encourages urgency, prompting us to act rather than delay. Urgency does not mean recklessness, it means a deep understanding that every moment is valuable and that the decisions we make now shape our future. When we live with this awareness, we are less likely to squander time on trivialities or meaningless routines and more likely to prioritize the work, relationships, and experiences that carry real significance. Ultimately, time is the lens through which our values, priorities, and purpose become visible. It reflects the choices we make, the actions we take, and the impact we create. The way we spend each hour is a measure of what we truly care about. Every decision, no matter how small, is an investment in the life we are building. By treating time with the respect it deserves, making deliberate choices, and acting with intention, we transform fleeting moments into lasting achievements and ordinary days into lives of significance. Time is the one resource that is completely equal and completely unyielding. No matter who you are, where you come from, or what you have achieved, each person is given the same 24 hours in a day. What separates those who live meaningful lives from those who merely exist is how they choose to use those hours. Time cannot be paused, saved, or reclaimed. Once a moment passes, it is gone forever, and no amount of wishing, planning, or longing can bring it back. Recognizing this truth is both humbling and empowering because it reminds us that every choice we make with our time matters. Many of us fall into the trap of waiting for the right moment to act. We convince ourselves that the conditions must be perfect, that we must feel ready, or that the stars must align before we take a step forward. But the truth is, the right moment rarely comes. Life unfolds in the present, and every second wasted waiting for, someday, is a second we can never recover. Each day offers fleeting opportunities to act, create, and grow, yet we often allow fear, doubt, or indecision to hold us back. Time will not pause for our hesitation, and every moment spent waiting is a moment lost. Busyness is another form of time misuse that many of us embrace without realizing it. Our culture celebrates long hours, endless tasks, and constant motion, often equating activity with achievement. We fill our schedules with meetings, errands, and notifications, believing that being busy is the same as making progress. Yet activity alone is meaningless without direction and intention. True achievement comes from focusing on what matters most, eliminating distractions, and dedicating our energy to actions that create lasting impact. The ability to distinguish between what is urgent and what is important is crucial for a life well lived. Distractions are one of the most insidious ways we waste time. Phones, social media, news feeds, and endless notifications constantly pull us away from meaningful work. Each time we allow ourselves to be distracted, we not only lose minutes or hours, but also mental clarity, focus, and energy. Time spent on distractions subtracts from our potential and diminishes our capacity to create, connect, and grow. Protecting our attention is as essential as protecting our health, relationships, or financial resources, because time, once lost, is irreplaceable. Procrastination is a silent thief of time disguised as prudence or caution. It convinces us that delaying action is harmless and that later will always be better. We postpone important decisions, difficult conversations, and meaningful endeavors, often convincing ourselves that there will be another chance. But with every delay, opportunities slip away, and the window to create meaningful impact narrows. Procrastination accumulates, quietly stealing days, months, and years, leaving us further from our goals than we ever intended. Understanding procrastination as a form of wasted time is essential to reclaiming control over our lives. The power of small, consistent actions cannot be overstated. Many people believe that success or progress requires monumental effort or dramatic gestures, but it is the everyday, deliberate choices that truly build momentum. Each hour spent learning, creating, practicing, or building compounds over time, producing extraordinary results. Conversely, hours spent passively, distractedly, or without purpose quietly erode potential. Every meaningful accomplishment begins with the decision to invest time intentionally, and each small step contributes to long-term growth and fulfillment. Time also carries responsibility. We are accountable for how we allocate each hour, for the decisions we make, and for the priorities we set. No one else can make these choices for us, and the consequences of misusing time fall solely on our shoulders. Each choice to spend time on one activity means sacrificing the opportunity to spend it on another. Recognizing the weight of these decisions is critical because the way we use our time reflects what we truly value and ultimately shapes the trajectory of our lives. Reflection is a powerful tool for reclaiming time. By pausing to examine our habits, routines, and priorities, we gain clarity about what is draining our energy and what is contributing to our growth. Without reflection, we drift, allowing external pressures, distractions, and default behaviors to dictate how our days unfold. Reflection helps us identify where we are wasting time and provides the insight necessary to redirect our energy toward actions that matter. It creates a framework for intentional living, helping us align our actions with our values and long-term goals. Awareness of the finite nature of life should inspire action rather than fear. Recognizing that our days are limited instills urgency, reminding us that waiting, delaying, or hesitating comes at a cost. Urgency is not about rushing or recklessness. It is about understanding that each moment carries value and that how we spend our time shapes our future. When we internalize the fleeting nature of time, we are more likely to prioritize meaningful work, nurture important relationships, and invest in experiences that contribute to personal growth and fulfillment. Ultimately, time reflects who we are, what we value, and the legacy we are creating. It is measured not in hours spent or tasks completed, but in the alignment of our actions with our purpose and the impact we make on the world around us. Each choice, no matter how small, is an investment in the life we are building. By treating time with respect, acting with intention, and dedicating ourselves to what truly matters, we ensure that our moments are meaningful and our lives are shaped by purpose rather than circumstance. Time is the one resource that is completely impartial. It doesn't favor the wealthy, the powerful, or the talented. Every single human being, no matter their background or circumstances, is given the same 24 hours in a day. Yet how we use those hours determines the course of our lives. Time cannot be paused, saved, or reclaimed once it has passed. Each moment is finite, and every choice we make about how to spend it carries consequences. The awareness of this truth is both humbling and empowering because it reminds us that we are responsible for the life we create with the hours we are given. Many people spend their lives waiting for the right conditions to act. They convince themselves that someday they will pursue their dreams, take risks, or follow their passions. But someday is not a guarantee. Life unfolds in the present, and every moment we delay is an opportunity lost. Waiting for fear to disappear, for confidence to grow, or for circumstances to be perfect only postpones growth and progress. Every second wasted in hesitation is a second that can never be recovered, and yet most of us act as if time is limitless, forgetting that it marches forward regardless of our readiness. Busyness is often mistaken for productivity, and it is one of the most common traps in modern life. People fill their schedules with endless tasks, obligations, and distractions, believing that being constantly occupied equals progress. Meetings, emails, errands, and social commitments can make us feel important and engaged, but they rarely move us closer to our true goals. True productivity is intentional and deliberate, focused on activities that align with our purpose and values. Without direction, business becomes a form of wasted time, leaving us exhausted and unfulfilled despite constant effort. Distractions are relentless and cunning. In a world dominated by screens, notifications, and constant information, it is all too easy to give away our time without realizing it. Every moment spent scrolling through social media, reacting to every ping, or chasing fleeting entertainment is a moment we will never get back. Distraction not only consumes our time, but also fragments our focus and diminishes our ability to think deeply, create meaningfully, and engage fully with the world. Protecting our attention is essential because focus is the currency through which time produces value. Procrastination masquerades as patience or caution, convincing us that delay is harmless. We put off decisions, avoid difficult conversations, and postpone action on projects that could define our lives. Each delay, however, is a silent loss of opportunity. The longer we procrastinate, the further we drift from the life we intend to build. It is easy to underestimate the cumulative impact of small delays, but over weeks, months, and years, these moments of inaction accumulate, creating a life that is less intentional than it could have been. Understanding procrastination as a thief of time is the first step toward taking control of our days. Small, consistent actions, repeated over time, are the true engines of achievement. Many believe that success requires grand gestures or dramatic breakthroughs, but meaningful results often emerge from discipline. Incremental effort. Every hour spent learning, creating, building, or improving compounds over time, producing outcomes far beyond what a single effort could achieve. Conversely, time spent passively or without intention erodes potential slowly and invisibly. The difference between a life of impact and a life of regret often comes down to these small, deliberate choices repeated consistently. Time demands responsibility. Each hour, minute, and second carries weight because it is a resource that cannot be recovered. We are accountable for how we allocate our attention, energy, and effort. Every decision to engage in one activity is simultaneously a decision to forego another, and these trade-offs define our priorities. Recognizing the responsibility inherent in how we spend our time is critical because it shapes not only our accomplishments, but also the person we become. Accountability for time is a foundation for intentional living. Reflection is an essential tool for understanding and maximizing time. By pausing to examine our habits, routines, and priorities, we gain clarity on what is meaningful and what is not. Without reflection, we drift, letting external demands and default behaviors dictate how our days unfold. Reflection allows us to identify patterns of waste, recognize distractions, and redirect our energy toward actions that truly align with our purpose. Through reflection, we gain insight into the value of time and the power of deliberate choices. Awareness of life's finite nature should inspire urgency and deliberate action. Recognizing that each day is limited encourages us to act rather than delay, to prioritize significance over triviality, and to focus on what truly matters. Urgency is not a call to recklessness, but a reminder that time is precious and every moment counts. Living with this awareness drives us to invest in relationships, projects, and experiences that contribute to growth, fulfillment, and lasting impact. It motivates us to be intentional in every choice we make. Ultimately, time is the measure of our values, priorities, and purpose. It is reflected not in hours logged or tasks completed, but in the alignment of our actions with what we care about most. Every decision, every commitment, and every effort is an investment in the life we are building. By treating time as sacred, acting with focus and intention, and dedicating ourselves to meaningful pursuits, we shape our lives into something remarkable, transforming fleeting moments into lasting achievement and significance.